Friday morning, 8:30. I know everybody had the coffees and stuff like that. Let's give a hand for yourself to kind of come here first. Not easy at 8:30 in the morning on Friday, we know that. So, first is thanks a lot for coming down, and the last day of Dreamforce, so I think we're all doing it. So the topic of today that we're going to talk about is more on continuous integration. It's a part of continuous delivery, but more importantly, the ROI, how we need to create, what do we need to do, and why do we need to do that. And just from a show of hands, so that we kind of understand and make it more pertinent for you, how many of you have heard of continuous delivery? And who has implemented or is a part of a team which has continuous integration enabled, meaning that you have test and test automation? Okay, awesome. So what I would do is just give you a little bit more in terms of what we're doing. And the last question from my side is, how many of you have version control enabled in your organization? Awesome. Oops. I think I would have to use this. Great. So, continuous integration is getting more and more popular. Just in case, what it means is, it means that you have mainline code, everybody checks in the code, it's a lot more quality in terms of where you go, and it's come to be the mainstay. So you would, it is like Agile, or it is like Waterfall that was there five years ago, and now if you're doing Waterfall, it's kind of more obsolete. And you would not have success, your team would not be successful without continuous integration anymore. And in terms of the state of continuous integration, for example, I don't know who has come to Dreamforce, so I have been here for the last 6 Dreamforce events, and back then there was only 1 or 2 sessions on continuous integration, and more of the sessions were on Agile. How you would want to do Agile, how you would want to go out of Waterfall, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the stats that we have seen, we have talked to both with internal Salesforce employees, internally, and our customers. So if you do not have continuous integration, you're not alone. Less than 3% have continuous integration as a process in the Salesforce ecosystem. Version control, if you think that there are other people doing it, there are very, very few who are doing it. And same thing, test automation. When I talk about test automation, it's more of functional and regression testing, so not many people do it. And finally, there are a lot of challenges. I think we all know about the challenges in terms of being a cloud. In Java, obviously everybody had it, but when it comes to the cloud-based development, be it online sandboxes, and then you have all your restrictions in terms of having not able to write SQL queries, or again, it's a shared service. So it's a shared platform that Salesforce provides you, and you have got restrictions around it. But the good news is that we have partners, we have tools, we have a lot of infrastructure in the ecosystem, and you make use of your partners, make use of a lot of tooling available, and then finally the ecosystem, if you put a query, you will get an answer most probably. And continuous integration is getting more of the mainstay. So finally, what does it take, and what are the challenges there? You have your entire dev process starting from the time you commit to you go to deploy and so on and so forth, to your release and post-release maintenance. So what happens there is, for each and every stage, you would need to kind of have one tool that you need to select from. For version control, you have Git, Perforce, and so on and so forth. You need to select one, and then choose it. You need to train your employees on that, and then implement it. And same thing with the next one, and the next one. So then you need to kind of you need to write a lot of AND scripts to kind of have some kind of automation. So what happens is, during all this process, you would need to have some people trained, you would need to have these tooling, you need to identify the right tools, and then implement it. So it's like implementing Salesforce multiplied by 10, 20, or 30 times, which can get more and more and more difficult. So essentially, there are a lot of tools in the market, and what happens is, what we have done differently is that we have integrated all these tools, and these are project management tools, these are version control tools, these are test tools, test automation tools, and so on and so forth. So right now what you have is, out of the box, you have all these integrations. So if you select Git, for example, it's pre-integrated. All you need to do is button click, you select Git, and then give your credentials, and you're up and going with version control. So version control is a one-day affair for us. But the idea is to train your team, which is kind of more difficult. So same thing with test automation, for example. If you do not have a test case tool or test management tool, there are a lot of open sources that you can kind of integrate really quick and then keep running. And finally, if you do not have this entire stack, you have to kind of build a platform. It's not just one tool. If you're doing one single tool and trying to get everything done, it's not difficult. And continuous integration does take time. And finally, what do you want to achieve out of it is you want to achieve higher release velocity. So that the team you're developing, your team which is kind of doing their code, if they write 50 lines of code, you can push it to business as soon as possible. That is the final goal. And finally, there are a lot of release challenges. I would not go down into all these details, and we have our team who can help you with that. But more importantly, it's landscape, it's the version control. And for example, if you're trying to push a deploy or trying to commit, then you will have so many missing dependencies that you have to check. Your validations that you do does not really work a lot of times, and so on and so forth. And finally, one is the release, the other one is execution challenges. You would need to have the quality of code. You would need to have the change management done with the team. And then again, finally, we have seen that the quality, everybody wants to improve, everybody wants to do the right change management, but at the same time, if you do not have test and test automation, all these things do not even matter, because if you do not invest in testing, it really does not go anywhere. And finally, the way that you need to do is, again, from best practices perspective, first is understand where your team is. So this is a very simple template for you to kind of look at in terms of what are the various buckets. For example, sandbox management or version control, where are you, and define your levels. So this is where you can kind of engage or have an idea of where you are, and this needs to be communicated to your management, to your teams, and you need to kind of get the focus and the get the focus in the right way, so that your team understands that we are at maybe say level 1 in data migration, and we need to go to level 3, or we are doing testing, we are in level 2 and we need to get to level 3. So have your own thing, and the specific tasks that you will need to get from level 1 to level 2, there are 2 or 3 tasks that you need to do, and so on and so forth. So you would have a clear vision in terms of where you can go. And from a best practices for business leaders, what you would need to do definitely is, it's not a one-day task, it has to be crawl, walk, and then run, and then finally sprint. So that's where you should be able to kind of get enabled. And finally, there are a lot of ways you can do it. It has to be a phased approach, it has to be a milestone-based too, so you have checkpoints once you get that, and that's where you have to validate. There are a lot of other companies which have implemented it. You can actually benchmark it within the industry, and then finally, that's where finally it all leads down to there's no free lunch. So everything does cost, and that way at least you can create a business. And that's a good way into how do you kind of develop a business case for you to kind of get into faster release management, or faster or getting into continuous integration. First thing is you would need to kind of ensure that your risks are identified, your risks are portrayed, and it's all about how do you amplify the message to your stakeholders, to your management, so that you can get the key in terms of the resources, the budgets, and the time, and the mind share of the entire organization. And then finally, some of the few things that ROI calculations that you can do, because finally to create a business case, you definitely would require ROI or some kind of benefit analysis, and this has to be metrics based, this has to be numbers driven. It's just and we have seen, so typically we work with a lot of clients who had a document, but then finally it has to translate to metrics. So it can be cost based, it can be resource based, and then finally change management or tooling and things like that. And then it can be broken down into two parts. The other part is value-based in terms of how fast can you get your piece of code or get your functionality to the business. So with that, typically there are several ways you can do it. So these are some of the examples that we are given, but obviously there are a lot more that you can do. And then now what I would want to do is, we have one of our customers who has kind of gone through the entire process, so he will kind of give you a quick overview. So I would welcome Naga on.
Great, thanks Vishnu. Good morning everyone. Thanks for being here in the early morning 8:30. So it's not that easy to be here. So first I would like to thank Salesforce and opportunity to share about delivering digital experience with velocity, which I love and doing it over 18 years. So I'm with SunPower for more than a year. For people who doesn't know about us, SunPower is a solar manufacturing and technology company. And we are named for delivering high efficiency solar panels with 30 years of innovation. So we are well established across the globe with a diversified approach from residential rooftops to utility scale power plants. And at SunPower, our vision is to change the way our world is powered. And of course, we want to be the choice for the change. And it's not easy, right? We should be considering the great customer experience, greater levels with the customer as a focus. But the customer experience is changing every day, right? And I believe today's digital world is all about change. So business and IT has to transform to keep up with these changing demands and technology needs in no time, right? That's where the complexity is, right? There is no time. So we need to transform pretty quickly. So if you look at our SunPower Salesforce present, we have a large stack of Salesforce applications, and the complexity comes with the customization. And we don't have a solar industry, there is no out-of-box product available. So we have to build our own quoting applications and orders applications and the order to cash and all our project installations, what we do at our residential or the commercial, all the installation, everything is we built by our own. So we built our own CPQ, Q2O, Q2C, and ordering everything. So that increases our complexity, right? And also a lot of integrations with the backend systems. So with this much of complexity, you can imagine the change is pretty hard and difficult, and a small change into the stable production environment will cause the disruption to our business. So we actually, these changing demands and to compete in the market with this digital world, we actually we have to transition from no version control to continuous delivery in no time. How that was possible? AutoRABIT kind of application tools actually helped us accelerate the process. So we have so many open source tools available in the market, but the difference with the AutoRABIT is basically it actually helped us to jump onto the CI/CD journey within no time, right? So just to give the glimpse, I actually put together like 3 slides where we were and where we are today and where I am actually heading. So this is where we were. So we like this was like 6 months ago. 6 to 8 months ago, we were actually into the project-based delivery model where we were not agile, and also it was tied to the release schedules, and there is no predictability. So the lack of predictability is always a big issue with the business users, right? There's no, we never know when my change will go into the production. So there is no guarantee. Either the business users not available, or the environments are busy with something, or maybe we are encountering issues at UAT. So with the AutoRABIT in place, we actually implemented the CI/CD. So in our journey, actually we achieved continuous delivery and also the continuous integration regardless of the release. This is where we are today. But still, if you ask me, did you achieve what you are looking for? No. Because even though I say like we are proud of our delivery model, we are in CI/CD model, but if you look at this one, I am integrating everything at the beginning, all the features, but after that I am tied to some release schedule, either -3 weeks or -2 weeks, some release schedule. You are binded by the release schedule. I have a predictability, but the problem is the scale. My business can come and say like, okay, where is the continuous delivery? Right? I want the change to be done tomorrow, or maybe I want to have my features to be delivered to the market within a week. I don't have that flexibility here, right? Because I have the release model. So my goal is to be developing my features on demand, but developing on schedule and releasing on demand, right? So that means there is no release in your model, right? There is a release, it can be scaled to either a day or a week or can be, but depends on type of the organization and the business you want to do. So this is where we want to go. So I have the AutoRABIT actually taking the change from the development environment, putting it into the integration environment. It's all automated, and I have my QA automation in place where AutoRABIT actually calling these automations and making sure we have the end-to-end regression is done at the integration level. So then my QA teams actually works only at the staging environment. So that is our QA environment. That's where we stage all the features, and that means every feature we actually coming out of the build stage is ready for the market, right? So then only the certified features will get onto the release environment, which is my UAT environment, and enable quick deployment and push it to the production at any time. So I can define this swim lane so that this environment is scaled to any size of the organization. If you have a smaller team, like maybe 15 to 20 members, you can have one swim lane. If you have like 100 to 200 developers, and you can have the same build swim lines, you can create as many as you want and then integrate to the release environment. So this is where we want to head by next year. So what's the continuous integration? What do you guys do at the CI? Right? So many people asked me this question yesterday when we were having some discussions. So I thought to put together one slide. This is what we do. Once we get the change from the developer into the CI environment, we make sure all the technical validations happen for the code coverage here. And we make sure all the automation, end-to-end regression taken care at the integration level. And then we also make sure all the functional testing happen before it gets onto the release. So finally, every release, every commit coming out of the build stage is into the release is ready for the release. And the lessons learned, I think the information I want to share here basically is, with all this 6 months of CI/CD journey, what we learned with all the retrospectives from the team basically is, you need to have right branching model in place. Otherwise, it's very difficult to implement the version control. So make sure you have the right branching model, and also define the delegation of the responsible role, create the roles and responsibilities, delegate well between your release teams and the development teams, or if you don't have many team members, create at least the roles and responsibilities within the same team. And continuous feedback. Have a maturity model with the phased milestones, get a continuous feedback with each cycle retrospectives. That's really a key. Right? And also make sure you have the right environment strategy in place. At the end, right tools and the automation is the key for the successful model. At the end, everybody asks me, right, so what's the ROI you're getting? Yeah, I understand your goal, every check-in is a release candidate, but what's the ROI? The ROI is your mean time goes down to send the resolutions to the market, right? So you can send any type of change into production in no time. And also, you have great quality in place with all these automation, QA automation at the continuous integration level. So your productivity goes up. But please remember that your ROI is not immediate. You will not see that immediately. That's the challenge with the CI/CD, because you need to mature in the process to see that. So it takes time and patience. So because putting the right tools and the process is not only good enough, because it's you need to understand this is a great cultural shift. You need to educate all your users. The shift will start from the business users to your delivery teams, and it takes time. You need to have a patience, and you will feel like you slowed down at the beginning because of the quality issues into the production at every change, right? Because you're putting change every minute into the production, or every day into the production. So that causes a lot of disruption to business. Unless you have the right automation in place at the build stage, you will not be able to reach your goal. So understand that ROI is not immediate, it takes time, it's a great cultural shift, and also everybody needs to have a mindset, and you need to understand how you are actually developing the software. So you need to have the mindset about the software development and put an expert. Then you will start seeing the ROI at the end. So if any questions, I'm happy to have.
Great, thanks, thanks a lot. And just for, yeah, great one. So, as you have seen, one of the key things right now is to go from a step, as Naga was kind of explaining in terms of what his past was, what his current is, and what the future was. So, one key thing for him to start a CI/CD journey, again, you can break it down into several phases. One is just asking for budgets, was what we talk about, or asking for manpower, as we talked about. But the key thing is to kind of figure out what you would want to do based on your development team. So do you want to kind of have your development team being exposed to a continuous integration server like a Jenkins or an AutoRABIT or Circle CI, Travis, there are a lot of them. But if they have not, it does not become very easy. It's not a one-day affair, as Naga was saying. It's a one-year journey that is embarked on. It will take time, it will take a lot of patience, and especially be it a developer or an admin, you would have to kind of get to one of these tools. So first and foremost, understand, as we said, we'll just go back to the slide on the maturity model, because that's what would be important. I would like to touch base a little bit upon that. Sorry about that. So essentially what we have seen also is that when clients start off, so if you can, one of the key things is understand where you would want to go. The key is to really evaluate and introspect where you are currently. So it might, level 0 might look bad, or level 1 might look bad for a lot of people, but that's what is the introspection that we need to do. And what we have seen over and over again, if your goal is level 4, for example, in terms of an automatic code promotion, I don't know how many people, how many in the audience would want a static code analysis, or an integration with your integration with, say, something like PMD, which will kind of give you the right set of tools and the metrics to kind of go with. And for example, how many you would need to definitely have, if you want to get to a higher level of maturity, you definitely would want to have your regression test coverage, your code coverage. So how do you do that? Is with a tool. The first and foremost would be to kind of have a continuous integration server in place. So without that, all this is not possible. It has to be integrated. Then, because what happens is only with a server or only with a comprehensive tool, you will be able to integrate with your version control, for example, be it a Git or be it a SVN or be it a Perforce. And one of the challenges that we have seen, or one of the challenges that have commonly come to us is, hey, my organization has adopted SVN. I got an enterprise license for SVN, and I cannot get a Git now. Or I have Perforce, or I have SVN or TFS. So is there a way to kind of integrate? So best thing is to get a tool which integrates with all these, the tool set that you have, and then go with it. That's the first step to the journey. The next is in terms of ensuring that select the right tool set. So in terms of your version controlling, what is the right tool set? And then in terms of what your team is more comfortable, choose tools that is more comfortable for your team rather than what is more comfortable for your organization. So if you do this, then it kind of moves very fast. And then what happens is, as soon as you kind of have an understanding of where you are from this maturity level, you would be able to kind of do specific tasks. So for example, if you look at version control, it's on level 1, and then if you want to go to level 3, one of the key things is, I think everybody would know that profiles deployment is a challenge, and people and developers writing or admins making changes on top of each other, you would not have any understanding of who did what. So for that, all you need is a good integration with version control. And we have had challenges where larger organizations, so for example, there have been cases where we have onboarded 100 developers in one single time, and 5 developers work on a single object. And Salesforce, best practice, if you go to Salesforce, they would say that, look, you cannot have 4 or 5 people work on the same object at the same time and checking it. But in a from a practicality perspective, in the real life scenario, you would need that, because that's the demand, or that's the demand and the nature of Salesforce, where you're trying to kind of get it out to the market as soon as possible. So having said that, there are various workarounds for that. and even profiles. So just by show of hands, I know that a lot of people actually have Excel sheets. Pre and post deployment, a lot of people we have seen that more and more customers have an Excel sheet by which they kind of move their profiles or post deployment steps. So all that is not required. If somebody is doing chain sets, so chain sets was 2015. So 90% or maybe 60 to 70% of the Salesforce teams still use it. But I'm pretty sure in 2017, chain sets would not be something that you should be looking at, you should be worrying about. Or you should be even planning something around chain sets. There's something absolutely wrong in terms of what you're trying to do from a development team perspective. So these are all there. And what we can do is, I would definitely, if some questions are there, we can take it. We got about a couple of minutes. And so this kind of gives you a quick overview of what we have done and what we can achieve. And from Naga's perspective also, just from a summary standpoint, we have seen how you would want to go. The first one is to kind of adopt, first figure out where you are, what you would want to do. These goals are important. And from ROI and the business case perspective, you would need to definitely have measurable targets, both in terms of value and cost and numbers. And then finally, it's a journey that you need to undertake. It's not a 1 week, 2 week or 3 week exercise. It takes a long time. So at this point, last 1 minute. So if any questions are there from the audience, we can take it. And finally, thank you very much again for joining. And it's great to have you all here. And hope you have learned something today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we are there, and we also have Niranjan here, who's who's our architect, who has done a lot of these tooling, so he can help us out for any questions. Yes, ma'am.
And I'm not sure when you started your journey, but I'm curious if you're able to share any of your returns to date, maybe on some of your KPIs.
So, like you see on the screen, maturity model with the phased milestones is the important thing before you start your journey. So we actually we had 4 levels, and like what you're saying. So we were with the chain set deployments, complete manual. So today with AutoRABIT actually in place, so we are actually doing the automated deployments, and also now still profiles is not something we achieved yet. But actually by end of this year, we will be automating profiles as well. So we are working with this team. We are working on bringing the profiles also into the automated deployments and remove the Excels out of this code. So we are actually at level 2 to 3 in our journey. So my next step is enabling the test-driven development. So with the test-driven development, actually I think my target is to move into level 4 and also bringing the security also into the build stage scans, so that if any SQL injections or any other PI data into the code, so we want to take care of those things. So we are at between level, somewhere close to level 3 right now.
And just to add to that, again, maybe I'll give you an instance of Coca-Cola who are working with us. So one of the key things, what happened there was they had a lot of pre and post deployment steps. So they have a 17-page document, they have a 17-page document with 8 or 9 people assigned to it. So as soon as it gets to their deployment, so 2 weeks before they start working, there are 2 people responsible for profiles. One person just takes care of their configurations and so on and so forth. What you can do, especially with integration with testing, is that you can pretty much automate those things. So what we have done is create a template. If you have profiles, you can select a template, and this is used industry-wise. I have to say 80% of actually every team needs these deployment steps. So we have automated something just like profiles that Naga was talking about. You can have a lot of other things that you can pretty much automate. So as soon as you click your button on deploy, so these profiles or these automation deploy scripts or specific tasks can be automated also, which run along with the deployment process.
And also just to add on, so we are actually still experiencing a lot of P1 and P2s after our deployments. So we are not into that happy honeymoon state in our deployments yet. So after every deployment, we have P2 issues pretty much every week. So, but our business users understand this will happen. We set the expectations, and we are actually doing a lot of retrospectives and taking care of those things. So we see a golden path in front of us.